Okay, we're going to try this again. This is 5.6 in the Algebra 2 Honors textbook. The first group are all proportions where you could just cross multiply these. You need to multiply by the common denominator. In this case, it's x times x minus 4. When I multiply it here, I notice that the x on the bottom and this x will cancel, leaving me with 10 times x minus 4. So that's what I'm going to write is 10 times x minus 4. Now a plus, when I multiply here, nothing's the 1 on the bottom, so nothing will cancel. So that's 3x times the x minus 4. How about when I multiply on this side? Would the x minus 4 cancel with the x minus 4? That leaves me with the x times the x plus 9. Let's see, if I distribute, I'd get 10x minus 40. If I distribute here, I'd get 3x squared minus 12x. Distributing here is x squared plus 9x. I'm going to rearrange everything. 3x squared, 10x and a negative 12x is negative 2x. That negative 40 stays. And let's move everything over. If I subtract x squared and I subtract 9x, that should make it equal 0, right? And again, the only way to solve quadratics is to make it equal 0. Unless you're really fond of completing the square. Now, to factor this, you're going to have a 2x times an x. A times c appears to be 2 times negative 40, which is negative 80. And b is negative 11. So I want it to multiply to negative 80 and add to negative 11. 16 and 5 differ by 11 and they multiply to 80, but I want it to be negative 80. So negative 16 and 5. They multiply to negative 80 and add to negative 11. 2 goes into which of those numbers? The negative 16. So I'm going to say 2 times what? Let me just mark it here. Let's get a different color. Okay, 2 times what is negative 16? 2 times what is negative 16? Negative 8. How about on this one? 1 times what is 5? 1 times what is 5? That would be a 5. Just double check, does last times last equal last? 5 times negative 8 is negative 40, right? I always do that to double check. Anyway, you want to make each factor equal 0. Zero product theorem. If something times something equals 0, one of them must equal 0. 2x plus 5 equals 0, or x minus 8 equals 0. Subtract 5 and divide by 2 is negative 5 over 2. If you add 8, you'd get x to equal 8. I believe both of these will work because neither of them caused division by 0 in the original equation. Okay, continuing, we're going to look at 11. 11, you have a fraction equaling a fraction. That's called a proportion. When you have proportions, you could simply cross multiply if you wanted. That would be 4 times x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 4 times x minus 4 times what's on bottom here, x plus 4. This gives me 4x squared plus 8x minus 32 when I distribute. This would be 4 times x squared minus 16 because these are the difference of squares. So I have 4x squared plus 8x minus 32 equaling 4x squared minus 64 if I distributed. I'm going to subtract the 4x squared. That simply leaves me with x's, doesn't it? So if I add 32, what is 8x going to equal? Is that a negative 32? If you divide by 8, I believe we would get negative 4. What's the problem with this answer? If I put negative 4 in here, what's negative 4 plus 4? 0. So I can't divide by 0. I believe this one has no solution. After 11, I was asked 17. Here I'm going to multiply by the common denominator again, which should be 2 times x plus 7. When I multiply here, the 2x's cancel, leaving me 1 times x plus 7. So that's what I'm going to write. 1 times x plus 7. When I multiply here, the x plus 7's cancel, leaving me what? 3 times 2x, right? So that's what I'm going to write. Plus 3 times 2x. And when I multiply this last one, will the x's cancel? Leaving me a negative 1 times 2 times x plus 7. In other words, I wrote everything except for the x, because the x canceled. This is x plus 7. This becomes 3 times 2x is 6x. This is negative 2 times x, which is negative 2x. And negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. I'm going to add 2x. Add 2x. I'm sorry, let's combine terms first. What is 1x plus 6x? Would that be 7x plus 7? So now, if I add 2x, that should make 9x, right? And I probably want to move my constants to the other side. So I think that's 9x equals, what is this, negative 21? If you divide by 9, you get negative 21 over 9. 3 times negative 7. 3 times 3, canceling the 3's, makes x equal negative 7/3, which will work because there's no division by 0 when you substitute it in. Okay, after 17, we also have 25 was assigned. Here the common denominator is going to be x minus 3 times x minus 5. And again, I'm not multiplying by a fancy form of 1 here. The only way I'm able to do that is because I do the same thing on both sides of the equal sign. When I multiply over here, the x minus 3's will cancel. So what are the two things remaining? X plus 3 times x minus 5. So that's what I'm going to write. X plus 3 times x minus 5. When I multiply here, the x minus 5's cancel, leaving me x times x minus 3. So that would be x times x minus 3. When I multiply here, the x minus 5's cancel, leaving me x plus 5 times x minus 3 on the right side of the equal sign. Now we just got to clean it up. X squared minus 2x minus 15. If you're wondering how I do it fast, last times last gives me last. But if you add these, that's negative 2, and that's what goes in the middle. So that's how I'm able to do these kind of rapidly. X squared minus 3x. This would be x squared, I think, plus 2x minus 15, right? Last times last is negative 15. When you add those, you get a positive 2. Anyway, let's combine like terms. X squared and x squared should combine to give me 2x squared. Negative 2x and a negative 3x combine to give me a negative 5x. Then you have the minus 15 equaling this. If I subtract x squared, the goal is to make it equal 0. Subtract 2x and add 15, I believe we'll make this thing equal 0 now because everything over here should add to 0. This is x squared minus 7x, and those add to 0. Factor out I could put plus 0. Factor an x out, you get x times x minus 7. What makes this 0 and what makes this 0 will be possible answers. X equals 0 and x equals 7. And it appears they will both work because neither one causes division by 0. I would not be able to use a 5 or a 3 because those would make it division by 0.